Hello, everyone. Welcome to Joe Consume Cinema. I'm your host. Look, girls, after the events of the last episode, let's just agree never to use the phrase put yourself in the other person's shoes ever again. Agreed. And today we have Wednesday, Season 2, Episode 7, the penultimate episode to Season 2. So, last episode was probably one of my favorite in the entire show thus far. Really good. I love the chemistry between Emma Myers and Jenna Ortega. They work really well together, and that had to have been a ton of fun, getting to swap roles between the two. Like Emma doing her take on, Wednesday's character and Jenna doing her take on Enid's character. And it just had to have been a ton of fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. That was the highlight of the show thus far for me personally. And also just a really cool moment, mutual understanding between friends, kind of get more where they're coming from, that sort of thing. And yeah, I think it's going to actually help make their relationship all that stronger. Other than that, we now have this mystery about, who the Adams is that's going to be on the chopping block instead of Enid. She's off the hook now. Honestly, it's going to depend which Adams is on the line for me to actually care. Like if it's the grandma, it's not going to bother me at all if that happens. If it's like Fester, who only pops in, every once in a while, probably not going to bother me that much. The character that it actually would really bother me would be if it were Thing. That would really suck. Thing is low key, one of the best aspects of the show, honestly. Great character. So Tyler at this point is pretty much done with this whole dynamic. Mom, crazy uncle who's a zombie. It's just not for him. He's definitely not someone that is a team player, we shall say. He thinks the two of them are, reckless and careless. He doesn't like being controlled. So yeah, he's looking for a way out of this situation. And the more I think about it, the more I think maybe what we almost got where Wednesday was going to end up being his new master is what's going to be, how things end for him this season. I 100% think Wednesday would, hold on to that syringe with, that potion or whatever just to keep it just in case. So yeah, that's my prediction where like a season finale type moment where, she finally takes full control. I think Francoise and Isaac are done for. It's just a matter of time with them. Francoise is literally like coughing to death at every other turn. So yeah, that's a ticking time bomb. Small thing I wanted to mention, I don't know where this came from. It's kind of out of left field, but Gomez doesn't have like an ability, like an outcast ability like all the others. I may be reaching here, but is he a normie? It just seems odd that, he's definitely an Adams and he has that outcast vibe, but he doesn't have any ability like, all the others do. It got brought up, very briefly at the beginning of this season, but then never touched on again. And I'm just kind of curious if, that's something that's going to reveal itself or just, some little nitpick thing that, I'm focusing on. But yeah, we've only got 2 episodes left and they should be really good. Last 2 episodes were amazing, so yeah, I have high hopes to finish out this season strong. But before we begin, as always, remember to blank, blank, and blank. Still very much a small channel, so every like, comment, share, subscribe that we can get really helps out. I really appreciate it. Patreon link down below. With that, let's get right to it.
I'm Arnold Hunt.
Barry Dort. I manage one of the sirens. Gabrielle.
It's pretty clever how you got a front man, good looking face to put on the poster.
Principal Dort.
Who did not leave town as promised. Enid no longer dies. One of us does. I'd like to sacrifice Pugsley.
Werewolf form. Like, forever?
Okay.
For a couple of hides, they fled like rats.
What's with the butterfly?
New England corpse moth. They return to the host body to lay their eggs.
What if the body's on the run?
I bet they can still find it.
I tried.
Your weasel of a principal called last night. He's offering me the moon to donate to your mother's gala.
You want to see the whites of his eyes when you reject him.
There are few greater thrills in witnessing the exact moment when a man's spirit is broken. It was worth a shot.
You will present this decision to your family and the world without raising suspicion.
Obviously, Wednesday is going to know something's up. Her grandma told her that she was planning on rejecting it.
Sorry, I'm closing.
It's an emergency. A car hit my dog. I can't move him by myself.
Hide blood. Roll up your sleeve.
Won't that weaken him, though? Put him in the same predicament?
If a young alpha wolf's out on a full moon, there's a high chance that I could never change back.
The full moon is in 2 days. How are you supposed to prevent that from happening?
By staying calm, Capri said I didn't have to face this alpha business on my own, that my strength is in my pack. But the truth is, you are my pack, Wednesday. Ajax!
Bianca's in trouble.
Dort thinks we're in the dark. I do my best work in the dark.
Come look at my new tower.
You said the only charity in life.
Good choreography.
Gideon is just the front man. And Dort is behind it all.
Oh, that's smart. Oh, God.
By the time Hester Frump wakes up tomorrow, her fortune will be gone and we'll be on a private plane. If it wasn't for me, Arnold, I'm taking off my mask. In fact, I'm going to burn it.
Adios, Gideon.
One big unhappy family. What? How did you...
If you want Dort to stop, you need to trust me.
Agnes?
I can't even get peace and solitude in a crime scene. Thought I was everything she wanted in a best friend. I was dead wrong.
You're still here.
Finally, some originality. I don't care what you think about me anymore. Good.
Like the words of a...
Yeah, her going invisible is a cool little trick to add to the routine. And then she picks his pocket. I like seeing Thing dance. Well, goodbye.
I need your help.
Okay, took some time just to gather my thoughts. That was episode 7, another damn good one. Ton has happened this episode, a lot has been revealed. So the episode starts with the reveal that Principal Dort is really the person behind, the Morning Song cult. He rightly recognizes that, in order to properly appeal to people outside this thing to get them to come in, he's going to need a pretty face as like on the poster. And that's how he initially partners with Gideon is, he's just a pretty face that can act as the front man when really Dort is the one, running things behind the scenes. They've been hinting at this storyline, throughout the season, and finally we've got full reveal exactly what's going on, and also, the full conclusion too. Pretty satisfying conclusion as well. Could tell from the very beginning, when we were first introduced to Dort that he was kind of like a scummy huckster type character, but I wasn't sure, just how far he was really going to go with it. We saw throughout the season that he was willing to manipulate others, blackmail, that kind of thing, but at the same time it did kind of seem like he actually cared about outcasts, but really he was just out looking for himself, and he kind of reveled in his own power and the influence that he had on other outcasts. They're very formidable when, united as a force. A lot of cool little things this episode. I really like the choreography, both in the dance sequence and also in the fencing sequence between Bianca and Wednesday. This show really pays attention to the small details, and, it just takes like a, high-rated B-plus show and knocks it into that A category, I would say. This episode drew on a lot of the smaller plot lines, but also, the main storyline too. I'm glad I talked about it right before the episode started, but the whole thing with Gomez and how he's not technically an outcast in the true sense, and there was that little bit of debate, well, being an outcast is a state of mind, and he embodies that, more than anyone, really. We learned that Enid, given the fact that she is an alpha, there's a full moon coming up, there's a risk where she could just change and just stay that way permanently. And if that happens, she's going to be hunted down just to get rid of her because she's going to be way too big of a threat at that point. So, she's battling this whole thing, not wanting to be alone, at the same time, wanting to remain alive. Her character really has come a long way. You saw how she reached out to Agnes, who was again rejected by Wednesday, took it way too far, like the whole stalker thing, trying to imitate Wednesday down to everything, her hair, just really off-putting and, concerning, honestly, but that conversation with Enid did her a lot of good. It was cool how, because she was stalking Enid so much, she knew her dance routine cold, so she was able to, step in. Again, the dance sequence was excellent. It seems like they do one big one per season, and this one was pretty damn good. I don't know if it was as good as Wednesday's in season 1. Like, I don't know if this is blowing up on TikTok right now like the previous one did, but it was pretty damn good and I enjoyed it. You see how Francois's illness is, getting worse. They had to take her to the vet. It seems like the brother and Francoise have sort of come to an agreement where they're just going to use Tyler to keep her alive, even if it, takes something out of Tyler. I think the mother is more about self-preservation than she lets on and doesn't really care all that much about her son. Like, it's one thing if they can all be together, be a new family, but at the same time, if it's, a choice between her and her son, we know that Isaac is going to choose, his sister over this kid he just met who doesn't even like him. And I think Francoise is coming around to the idea of, maybe being alive is better than being a mother, that type of thing. So yeah, I do think at some point Tyler's going to have to cut the connection here if he wants to stay alive. I do think, ultimately he's going to be about his own self-preservation. Got revealed during the course of the episode that Isaac and Gomez at once were really close friends. They were roommates back at Nevermore. Also, it was hinted at, but it didn't reveal it, that Morticia has some close relationship with Francoise. Weems hinted at it, but didn't go into, specific detail. So there are still some secrets left for the season finale, but it seems to be setting things up quite nicely. Isaac has kidnapped Pugsley. He kind of felt like his family didn't really want him around, so he just, wandered off into the graveyard to be alone. But yeah, if nothing else, at least now he knows that Slurp is not to be trusted. Like, before, he was a little bit gullible about this guy wanting to have a second chance at life and all that jazz, and it turns out to be, just a sad song that he plays now and again to get sympathy from Pugsley to get what he wants from him. But just to quickly wrap things up, the two kills this episode that were really cool, really well done. Dort, just combusts and charges to Ash Gideon right then and there when he asks for his money, like as if he's ever going to share. And then at the end of the little gala where Dort has been forced to confess, he tries to take Bianca hostage. He turns around and Ajax is right there, turns his ass to stone, and then the little chandelier, because he lit the little end piece on fire, it finally snapped and broke and then fell directly on top of him as he was, turned to stone. The show has gotten really good at mixing some seriously dark moments in with, some carefree fun too. But yeah, the season finale should be excellent. These last 3 episodes have been fantastic, really enjoying it, and I think it's going to end things very strongly. And yeah, I honestly just want to get right to it. So as always, thanks for watching, and peace.